Greater MSP Business is brought to you by PwC, U.S.
It's called Happy Hour Squared. It sounds like any typical 5 p.m. get-together, but the Brave New Workshop in Minneapolis, the Classic Comedy Club, calls this a happy hour with a purpose. The third Thursday of every month, B&W opens its doors to volunteers who make sandwiches for the emergency food shelves. And Brave New Workshop literally opens its doors as an event venue, free of charge, to nonprofits that want to showcase their own efforts in the community outreach area. John Sweeney is the president of Brave New Workshop, and he is joining us this morning. Tell us about Happy Hour Squared and how that came about.
Sure, and thank you for having me. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. Happy Hour Squared came about kind of, at the Brave New Workshop because it was founded by this wonderful man by the name of Dudley Riggs. We always try to think differently about things. And so I was actually inspired by one of your past guests, Jackie Berglund, who was from Finnegan's. And she has this wonderful idea called the reverse food truck, where people can bring food to a food truck and they can help the people who are hungry in our world. So I started messing with that, and I was asking myself the question, what is something that we all do that we could perhaps just reinvent a little bit? Because I know we all want to do well, but we're busy. So I thought, well, everybody seems to go to happy hour. And what do we do there? We have a beer, so that's good. They could drink a Finnegan's, and then that could help the hunger. And then we socialize, and that's good. And then sometimes we kind of vent about work. And I thought, well, maybe we could just take that little piece out and then put some community service back in. And so, as you know, and many people in our community know, there's this wonderful man named Alan Law. And Alan Law distributes 725,000 sandwiches to the hungry each year, a retired school teacher. And I'd just seen a documentary film about him. And I thought, we have this building, we have a bar, we're downtown. How about if we just have a happy hour with a purpose? How about if we just invite people to come and have a beer, have a conversation, and make some sandwiches?
I think it's interesting you're talking about taking the kind of conversation that goes there, the venting of the business. And I would guess that people start talking about things like emergency food shelves and homelessness and just generally doing good. That conversation probably is great conversations to eavesdrop on.
It's very insightful that you say that. So I kind of a fly on the wall, right? And so I walk around to the tables, and they talk about those type of things. They talk about gratitude. They talk about how lucky we all are to know where our next meal has come. And then they also talk about what else they could do. So I didn't really kind of think that would happen, but it seems to spur these conversations, and someone will say, well, I do this with my church, and I do this with the community group I do. And so there's networking, and I think it's kind of helping the greater good. It's been exciting.
It sounds like it's popular, too. Do you get a fairly good turnout?
Yeah, we're a small organization, so we haven't done a lot of PR and marketing and sales, but we've finally got a Facebook page up, and our website will be up. So we've done 6 of them, and we're coming up on 15,000 sandwiches. And so we've averaged about 80 to 100 people per happy hour.
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
Fun.
It seems maybe a little bit paradoxical. Social good comedy club, especially edgy comedy club.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you think about 56 years. We've been entertaining and maybe mildly offending the Twin Cities, right? And we were founded by Dudley Riggs, and he coined the phrase that our mission statement should be promiscuous hostility, positive neutrality. And you think of that, you say, well, what are they doing with this kind of social good? Well, you also have to remember that Dudley comes from a circus background. And so he always let us know that when you came into a community and put up your tent, that community was what supported you. And so for 56 years, this wonderful community of the Twin Cities have been kind enough to come to our doors and buy tickets and buy beer and have some fun. And so we always kind of have this mentality that the audience is really who we should be grateful for because they give us our jobs. So that kind of always causes us for even in the 50s and 60s and 70s of what we can do to give back. And then there's this core principle of improvisation, which is the art form that kind of drives our organization. And that principle is what we do as improvisers is we take what we have, we make it bigger, we make it better, and we give it away. And that's how we build our scenes with each other on stage. But we've tried to adopt that into what we call our Brave New Citizenship program. And it's kind of how we approach and are grateful and try to help our community back.
You have another program called Project 824. That's the address, right?
Yeah, I think it's always funny. So I do a lot of work trying to help companies be more innovative. And apparently I'm not doing very well myself because we thought, we could name this thing 824 like the name. But what it means is my wife Jenny and I, and she's really kind of the wisdom and the true leader of our organization, we decided that since we had been given so much by this community and this new location that we had 3 years ago, and that is our theater now at 824 Hennepin, all the city partners and everyone were so kind to us that we should give back. So we've pledged to make that space available 824 times to other organizations, food shelves, Humane Society, people who are trying to do things.
It's great space. It's wonderful space. You can even empty it, looks alive.
It is. It's fun. And we named it the ETC, the Experimental Thinking Center. And it's really kind of a ballroom with some flavor. So lots of technology. We own all the tables, the linens, all that sort of thing. So it's very easy for us to say, hey, small organization, come have your event here. Then you don't have to pay the big bills for all that sort of stuff. And the reason we named it the ETC is because you remember Dudley had a theater in 7 corners from 1971 to 1991. That was the ETC, the Experimental Theater Company.
Okay, all right. Then it all kind of comes around
here.
It does. Do you hear from your alumni, and do they help you out with this social good end of your network?
Well, you know, lately many people would think that our theater is nothing more than a springboard for a senatorial career, right?
Yeah, Senator Al Franken.
Right, as one of our alumni. But we do. You know, it's one of the few places really in the planet where a young actor or writer can get so many repetitions, can have the ability to have their thoughts and their point of view represented in our scripts and on our stage. So they're always kind of kind, and they know that they got their start there. And that's Pat Proft, who wrote The Naked Guns. It's Peter Tolan, who was the executive producer of the Gary Shandling Show. It's Missy Peterman, who has her own show now, Cedric Yarborough. All these folks come back to us, and they're very, very kind.
You know, do you have you have a new digs, a new addition on Hennepin Avenue? What are the plans for that?
We've kind of fallen in love with downtown, Cindy. So we moved our theater from 26th and Hennepin, where it had been since November 30th of 1965. 3 years ago, we bought the old Tony and Tina space at 8th and Hennepin across the street from Crave. And that went so well, the 26th and Hennepin building, which we've never owned, we were always a tenant, the landlord decided to sell that building. So now we were looking for a place to have our school. Remember, we have 300 adult students who take improv class as a way to kind of add some variety to their life and find their most creative self. So we bought 727 Hennepin, which is right next to the Union. It's the old Teeners costume building.
Sure.
And it's in between the Skyway and the Union, and that's where our school will be. And we're in the middle of construction, and we'll open up around the Christmas season.
John Sweeney, thanks so much for joining us today and bringing us up to date on Brave New Workshop.
We're grateful for you and the Twin Cities. Thank you very much.
Thanks. The YMCA of the Greater Twin Cities is more than a gym. Next, how the Y parlays those gym memberships into public service.